Welcome, geometry students, to the homework help video for page 140, numbers 6 through 21. I'm trying to reach for my geometry book right now, so hold on one second. Okay, there we go. Page 140, numbers 6 through 21, numbers 24 through 29, and number 31. Go ahead and get your book open to that page, please, as I'm doing also right now. Turn to page 140. Have your notes out if you need your notes. Have your pens and pencils out, calculators if you need them. And let's go ahead and take a look at this homework assignment. You should be checking the evens to make sure you got them right, or you should be following along and watching ones that you're stuck on and getting help, okay? Let's go ahead and get started. Let me quickly grab a drink of water here. And let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we're going to look at numbers 6 through 9. The directions for 6 through 9 say this: write the converse of the true statement, then decide whether the converse is true. Well, this should be kind of fun. Let's see if we can figure this out, okay? Here we go. Question number 6. If you'll look in your book, you'll see it says, if two lines never intersect in a plane, then the lines are parallel. All right? Well, let's turn this around. Okay, I should say if two lines are parallel, then those lines never intersect in a plane. Let's see if that's what I put. Pretty close. If two lines are parallel, then they never intersect in a plane. Let's see if that's true. I wrote the converse. I wrote my then part first with an if, and I wrote my if part second with a then. Excuse me, please. So I've done that. Now let's decide whether or not this is true. If two lines are parallel, then they never intersect in a plane. Guys, that's true. That's totally true, definitely. Number 7, if angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, then their sum is 180. All right? Let's try to write that converse. You can pause the video, try it on your own, or just listen, whatever you want to do. If two angles sum is 180, then the angles are supplementary. If two angles sum is 180, then the two angles are supplementary. Is that true? If I know that two angles add up to 180, do I know for sure they're supplementary? Well, of course, that's true. That's the very definition of supplementary angles. Two angles that add up to 180. All right, number 8. If angle A measures 38 degrees, then angle A is acute. That's totally true. Excuse me. That's totally true. But now we've got to write the converse of that. So I would write, if an angle is acute, then that angle measures 38 degrees. If angle A is acute, excuse me for yawning, then its measure is 38 degrees. That's not true. I can give you a counterexample. I mean, it might be true, but you don't know that for sure. I can give you a counterexample. If angle A is acute, okay, here's an acute angle. There. 85 degrees. If an angle is acute, then its measure is 38. Now, maybe, but not always. Here's a counterexample. That's an acute angle whose measure is 85. If angle B measures 123, then it is obtuse. Okay, let's turn it around. Let's write the converse. If angle B is obtuse, then it measures 123 degrees. So there you go. There's your converse. If angle B is obtuse, then its measures 123 degrees. Well, that's not necessarily true. I can write an angle like this. That's obtuse, and that's about 170 degrees. So just because, and we'll call it angle B, just because angle B is obtuse doesn't mean its measures 123. It might be, but it might not be. It could be 170. So no, that is false. That is not true. All right, moving on. Let's take a look now at numbers 10 through 15. 10 through 15. The directions state, determine whether enough information is given to conclude that M is parallel to N. So you're going to say yes or no, and then tell me why. Number 10, they've given us two angles that are congruent. Now I want to point out to you that this angle here is below this line, and this angle here is below this line, and they're both on the same side, the left side of the transversal. We call those angles corresponding angles. And notice the corresponding angles are congruent. Was that not one of our ways to prove that lines are parallel? Definitely. So we have line M and N. So yes, we can state that M is parallel to N because, I know it looks really sloppy, C-O-R-R. That's C-O-R-R. Corresponding angles are congruent, definitely. All right, number 11. Now again, I hope you don't feel like I'm totally babying you guys. I just try to make this as easy as possible. You can turn your book, whatever you want to do. I like to turn this picture around so I can see it a little better. All right. Now, what kind of angles do we have? Well, notice that this angle is above this line, and this angle is above this line. And notice both angles are to the right of the transversal. We call those angles corresponding angles. Notice they're marked congruent. They're congruent angles. So, yes, I think this is M and N. Yes, I can state that M is parallel to N because corresponding angles are congruent. Definitely. All right, number 12. Now, I'm glad that this angle here is congruent with this angle here. You know, I'm glad about that. But that tells me nothing about these angles down here. Think about it. I mean, this line here could be totally shifted like that. And did these two angles change? No. This angle here is still congruent to this angle here. But this line here is definitely not parallel. This line here is definitely not parallel to this line right here. So we learned nothing today, students. We learned nothing today. Hold on one second. That if vertical angles are congruent, two lines are parallel. So no, we do not know this for sure, and we just don't have enough information. All right, number 13. Let's go ahead and do our usual that we like to do, or at least I like to do. And let's go ahead and group this thing and flip it so it's easier to see. You can turn your book if you want to. There we go. Now, let's see. Notice we have this angle, it's on the interior, and this angle is on the interior. And notice how they're on opposite sides of the transversal. One's on the right and one's on the left. So what we call these two angles are alternate interior angles. And notice they're congruent. And so we did learn today, we can definitely state that M is parallel to N because alternate interior angles are congruent. So I definitely can state that these two lines are parallel. All right, let's take a look at number 14. And again, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm sorry if it annoys you, but I think it really helps you students see what type of angles we're dealing with. Now, notice I have an exterior angle. It's above the line. And an exterior angle, it's below the line. So I have two exterior angles. And notice they're on opposite sides. So they're alternate. So I have alternate exterior angles that are congruent. So yes, I can definitely state that M is parallel to N because we learned that. Anytime the alternate exterior angles are congruent, we can state confidently for sure that the two lines being cut by the transversal are parallel. All right, number 15. Be careful on number 15. It looks pretty good, but guys, look, we do not, excuse me again while I yawn, we do not have a name for these two angles. Look, if the angle was not here, if it was here, then we'd have alternate exterior angles. That's not what we have. If this angle right here was here, then we would have alternate interior angles, but we don't have that. If this angle right here were right here, then we would have corresponding angles, okay? But we do not have any of that, and so we cannot state for sure that these two lines are parallel. The only way we can state that lines are parallel is to use the four methods that we've been given. All right, Let's continue on now and take a look at numbers 16 and 17. 16 and 17 say to sketch the described figure. So let's take a look at number 16. Draw two parallel lines and a transversal. So hold on one second. Let's draw two parallel lines with a transversal. There we go. With 3 and 4 as congruent corresponding angles, so that 3 and 4 equals 60 degrees. So I just kind of estimated here. We're going to call this angle 3 right here, so that's 60 degrees. And remember, we're talking about corresponding angles, so if I call that 60, then I call this 60 right down here. And there we go. That's all we had to do. Okay? Now, you might have put your 60-degree angle somewhere else. You might have put yours here and here. Well, that would be okay. Isn't this angle and this angle corresponding angles? Sure. As long as you're using two corresponding angles, that's totally fine. All right, number 17 says, draw two parallel lines and a transversal with angles 5 and 6 as same side interior angles, so that the measure of angle 5 equals 45. Now let's be careful here, okay? Let's do this careful. Let's go ahead and draw a parallel line, and then we're going to draw our transversal in such a way, there we go, that, now notice, by the way, when you reach 17, it says you want to use angles 5 and 6 as same side interior angles. So you could put angles 5 and 6 here, that would be fine. Or you could put angles 5 and 6 over here. It really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use the other side. So here's angle 5 and here's angle 6. Now let's read the rest of 17. Angle 5 should be 45 degrees. Now, if that's 45 degrees, do you remember what we learned today? If two lines are parallel, okay, we learned this yesterday actually. If two lines are parallel, then their same side interior angles are not congruent. They're actually supplementary. So that means this angle here and this angle here has to add up to 180. So this angle here would have to be 135 degrees. Please don't forget what you learned yesterday. If two angles are same side interior angles or consecutive interior angles, those two angles are supplementary. They are supplementary. Okay? That's number 17. All right, let's continue on to numbers 18 through 21. 18 through 21. Are AC and DF parallel? Explain. All right, let's go ahead and start off with number 18. And of course, if it helps, let's go ahead and turn this thing. All right, there we go. Get those two lines going left to right. All right, now I know it's hard to see, but we can still figure this out. Now, are lines AC and DF parallel? Well, let's see, guys. This right here is 57 degrees, and this angle right here is 123 degrees. Now, first of all, I know no relationship for these two angles. No relationship at all, okay? They're not called anything. But I do know that when I have two lines, when I have one line with a line coming off of it, these two angles here, this angle here and this angle here are supplementary. Always. They have to add up to 180. So I'm going to go ahead and put 123 degrees here because 123 plus 57 is 180. So I know this angle right here has to be 123 degrees. Now look what I have. I have an angle below the line, an angle below the line, and both of these angles are to the right of the transversal. They're called corresponding angles, and they're congruent. So yes, you can definitely state that AC is congruent to FD, or DF, however you want to say it. Yes, why? Because corresponding angles are congruent, definitely. All right, number 19. Well, let's be very careful here, okay? First of all, we have no relationship for this angle here and this angle here, none whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, vertical angles are congruent. We learned that weeks and weeks and weeks ago. When two lines intersect, this angle here is congruent to this angle here, and this angle with 2 dots is congruent to this angle over here. Okay, so we learned that a long time ago. So if this angle right here, notice how I have 2 lines intersecting. Here's one line and the other line. I have 2 lines intersecting. So if this angle here is 143 degrees, then this angle here also has to be 143 degrees because vertical angles are congruent. Now think about that for a second. Now I have a relationship. I have an angle here and an angle here. They're both on the interior, and they're both to the left of the transversal. They're on the same side. So we have same side interior angles or consecutive interior angles. Now, I know that you have to have supplementary angles when you're dealing with consecutive interior angles. So I'm going to quickly add these two together in my head, and I do get 180 degrees. I do. So these 2 angles right here are supplementary. So yes, I can state that AC is parallel to DF totally. Why? Because same side interior angles are supplementary. So definitely, that's one of our ways to prove that lines are parallel. All right, number 20. Now, guys, I'm just going to tell you right now the answer is no. There's not enough information. Look, this is 62 and this is 62, and that's fine. But you know nothing about this angle down here. So think about that for a second. My goodness. I know the points aren't going to move with this line. I get that. But still, what if this line curved like that? This is still 62. This is still 62. But there's no way these 2 lines are parallel. So what I'm trying to say is simply this. Just because we know that these 2 angles up here are 62 degrees and they're congruent, that doesn't tell us anything about these angles down here. So no, we do not know for sure that these 2 angles are congruent, or these 2 lines are parallel, excuse me. All right, number 21. Now this is going to be really interesting, so let's pay attention here, okay? This is going to be pretty confusing. Now what we're trying to do here is we're trying to see if AC is parallel to DF. Now, in order to do that, first of all, I want to point out to you, here's the 2 lines that I'm trying to decide whether or not they're parallel, AC and DF. Now look, I could use this transversal right here. The only problem with that transversal is I've only got one angle on this whole transversal. I have nothing else. So I'm not so sure that's going to be a line that's really going to be beneficial to me personally. And so I'm just going to get rid of it, all right? And this 65 degrees, I'm not really seeing a big need for that either. So now, that was not a good idea. Now, I'm left with my 2 lines that might be parallel, this line and this line, cut by a transversal, all right? So, let's see if we can find anything here. Well, first of all, this angle here and this angle here have to be congruent because they're vertical angles. So if this is 115 degrees, then this has to be 115 degrees also. Now, if that's true, look what I have here. I have same side interior angles or consecutive interior angles. They have to be supplementary if these 2 lines are going to be parallel, AC and DF. And if you add these 2 angles together, guess what you get? 180 degrees. So yes, you can definitely state that AC is parallel to DF. Why? Because same side interior angles are not supplementary. They are not congruent. They are supplementary. All right? So there we go. Number 21. Okay, let's continue on now and take a look at numbers. And I think we were supposed to stop there. Let me rush up here real quick to the top. 6 through 21, okay, and then 24 through 29. Okay, so jumping on now to number 24. All right, number 24 through 29, the directions say find the value of x so that m is parallel to n. All right, so first of all, would like to turn this thing. Here we go. And we're going to call this 105 degrees. And we're going to call this 3x. All right, very good. Now, If these two lines are parallel, which just says to assume, find x so that m and n are parallel. So here's m and here's n. If m and n are parallel, that means alternate exterior angles are congruent. And these are alternate, they're on the outside, exterior angles, and so they should be congruent. So 3x would equal 105, they're congruent. Divide both sides by 3, and you will get 35. All right, number 25. All right, let's see what x would be. Here we go. Okay, notice I have an angle here on the inside and an angle down here on the inside. One's on the right side, one's on the left side. Those are interior angles, and they're on different sides of the transversal, so they're alternate interior angles. And look, when two lines are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent. If this is a right angle, this is 90. So I can say that 90 equals 4x plus 6. Bring your positive 6 over and make it negative, and you get 84 equals 4x. Now divide both sides by 4, and you will get 21 for x. X equals 21. Let's take a look at number 26. And again, I just love to turn these things so we can see the two parallel lines going left to right. It's a lot easier with our transversal going up and down. Now, please listen to me carefully. If these two lines, M and N, are parallel, then I should know something about these angles. Now notice they're both on the interior and they're both on the same side of the transversal. We call them same side interior angles. Now remember, when two lines are parallel, same side interior angles are not congruent, they're supplementary. So I would take this angle, 62, plus this angle, which is 2x, and it should equal 180. They should be supplementary. So bring the 62 over and make it negative. So 180 and negative 62 is 118. And then divide both sides by 2, and you will get 59 for x for number 26. All right, number 27. What we have here would be corresponding angles. Notice this angle is above the parallel line, this angle is above the parallel line, and they're both on the same side of the transversal, the right side. So we call that corresponding angles. Now when two lines are parallel, what we've learned is corresponding angles are congruent. So you're welcome to state that 114 equals 11x minus 7. Add 7 to both sides, and you get 121 equals 11x. And now divide both sides by 11, and you should get 11 equals x for number 27, 11. Number 28, notice we have two angles on the interior, and they're on the same side of the transversal. We call those two angles same side interior angles, or consecutive interior angles. And whenever two lines are parallel, same side interior angles are not congruent, they're supplementary. So I take my top angle, 5x plus 8, and I add the other angle to it, which is 52, and all of that should equal 180. Now I can do some simplifying over here. I now have 5x plus 60, because 8 plus 52 equals 60. Now I'm going to bring the 60 over and make it a negative 60, and when I do, I'm left with 5x equals 120. Now divide both sides by 5, and you should get 24 for number 28, 24. And now number 29. Well, look, guys, both of these angles are interior angles, okay? And they're on alternate or different sides of the transversal. So we call these alternate interior angles. And whenever two lines are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent. So I take one angle, 8x, and I set it equal to the other angle, 7x plus 10. Now, I'm going to bring this 7x over and make it a negative 7x. So 8x minus 7x is 1x, or just x. So 1x equals 10. And now divide both sides by 1, and x still equals 10 for number 29. Now this next problem, number 31, is a pretty challenging problem. I don't know if I'd give you one of these on a test or a quiz, but it's definitely a higher level thinking problem, which is good for you, okay? So here we go. If I took, let's see how I can do this. If I got rid of this line here, like this, and this angle too, now just watch. And then I also got rid of that angle there. And now watch what I do next. See if this makes total sense. Watch this. And again, you might not have thought to have done this on your own, but hopefully when I'm done showing you this, it'll make sense. I'm going to extend that line going down. And I'm going to extend this line going up. You can extend a line, nothing wrong with that. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this whole thing. And when I do, I have this fear some things might show up. But I think we're okay. Here we go. That's not too bad. We'll leave it like that. There we go. Now, notice what I have. Watch this. Here's my two parallel lines, and I can prove they're parallel, which is what number 31 said. Name two parallel lines. Look, see this angle here? See this angle here? They're both on the exterior, so they're exterior angles, and one is on the right side and one is on the left side of the transversal, so we call them alternate. So we have alternate exterior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are congruent, so I can definitely say that AB is parallel to HJ. There we go. Due to that reason right there. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. Please continue to work hard, students, and study and do your homework. If I can help you at all, don't hesitate to call me or get in touch with me if you have any questions. All right? Have a good rest of the day.